Welcome to the Secrets to Getting a Great New Car Deal. My name is James Sweet, and I'm an ex-car salesman from the Phoenix, Arizona area, where I was a sales consultant to some of the largest car dealerships in the country. I've represented Ford, Mazda, Honda, Dodge, Nissan Infiniti, and Chrysler Jeep. Currently, I'm buying and selling used cars, and I own an auto consulting business, and I also teach online car buying classes. And over the next 45 minutes, we're going to be going over the same tips and strategies that I teach my own clients that have helped them get the best possible deals when purchasing a new vehicle. So let's talk about what it's going to take to ensure that you get the absolute best deal. Now, in order for you to get the best possible deal when buying a new or used car, you're going to need to be properly prepared and knowledgeable in all 5 phases of the car buying process, which are pre-shopping preparation, choosing the right vehicle, preparing your offer for that vehicle, negotiating your offer, and finalizing the deal. Now, if you'll notice over to the right-hand side of the screen, there are 5 separate videos. Each one is one of the 5 phases of the car buying process. You're going to need to watch this first video in its entirety first before going back over any of the other 5 phases separately. Before we begin, you'll need to print off a copy of each of these 3 forms. The first form is the trade and appraisal form, which is similar to the appraisal form that the desk manager will be using to appraise your vehicle. The second form is the new car information form, and this is the form that you'll be using to collect all the necessary information off the new car you plan to buy so that you can determine what the dealer invoice price is on that vehicle. The third form is the new car research information form. This will be the form that we'll be using to keep track of all the necessary information that we'll need to ensure that you get the best possible deal. Now, if you'll notice right below this video, you'll see an icon that says New Car Forms. Go ahead and click that. That'll pop up a PDF file so that you can easily print those forms. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is get a copy of your credit report, because knowing where you stand credit-wise is probably the most important step to take before you ever consider buying a car new or used. Because your credit report and your FICO score determine everything from your interest rate you'll pay to how much money you may need to put down. It also affects your overall monthly payment. Plus, it also gives you a chance to see if there's anything on your credit report that doesn't belong. And I'm looking at a study here online that says nearly 80% of all credit reports have some type of inaccuracy on them, and that 25% of those mistakes could trigger denial of credit. Now, to ensure that you get the absolute best rates possible, you need to know what's on your credit report. Never rely on a salesman to tell you if your credit is good or not, because they have no clue. They have no clue if your credit report's correct or not. All they know is what they see. And allowing a dealer to see and know more about your credit history and score than you do is a great way to get taken for thousands in the finance department. So where do you get a copy of your credit report? Well, you've probably heard and seen all the ads on TV and radio about free credit reports and scores. I would stay away from these because if you listen closely, they require you to enroll into their identity and credit protection program, which they charge you a monthly fee for, and then they require you to give them a credit card, which they'll charge those fees to. There's also myfreeannualcreditreport.com. This is where you can get a copy of all 3 of your reports for free. The only problem with this is that you get the reports, but you don't get the FICO score, which is what we really need in the first place. Now, what I would suggest you do is purchase a copy of all 3 of your credit reports from the 3 major credit bureaus. Now, Equifax offers a great 3-in-1 deal where you can get a copy of your report and your score from all 3 of these major credit bureaus for one low price. Now, I've put a link up on the dashboard where you can go directly to their page on their site and you can purchase them if you wish. Now, the only other way to get this information is to be turned down for any other type of credit in the last 30 days. In which you then have the right to see why you were turned down by requesting the information from your credit report from the agency that pulled your report. Now, there's really 2 good reasons why I suggest you do this. 1, it shows you where you stand credit-wise, and 2, it also shows the desk manager that you know where you stand credit-wise, because he's going to see that you pulled your report when he's looking it over, thus making it unlikely for him to try anything funny by telling you that you don't qualify for any of their special rates. If you're like most buyers, you're probably thinking about using one of the special low incentive rates that are offered by the manufacturer and having the dealership arrange your financing for you. But it's never really a bad idea to have the next best available rate at your disposal as a backup, and here's why. Most buyers before going to the dealership intend to use one of the special low incentive rates that are offered by the manufacturer, but then quickly realize that in the middle of negotiating that they're going to have to use the rebate instead. When this happens, this is where most buyers get themselves into trouble, unless they're properly prepared and got their financing pre-approved before going to the dealership. Knowing the best rate that you qualify for is the only way you can protect yourself and be assured that the sales manager is calculating your deal at a fair market interest rate. If they're not, and you have no idea what you qualify for, you could wind up losing thousands to the dealership just in interest payments alone. Now, in the scenario that I just laid out, it happens all too often, mainly because of little to no money down or substantial negative equity in the trade-in. When this happens, most buyers just simply let the dealership arrange their financing for them because it's fast, easy, and convenient. But for that convenience, they're going to pay a little extra, and here's how that happens. Remember the last time you bought a new or used car, and when it was all said and done that the salesman told you that your payments were going to be between this number and that number? The reason that they told you that was because they're going to add additional profits to the back end of the deal, and this is what's called padding the payment. Arranging the financing for their customers is one of the dealership's biggest profit sources, and where customers can lose a lot of their money. You see, a dealer can add anywhere from 1 to 3 percentage points to the best interest rate they can find for their customers, and the lenders allow this. So let me show you what that would look like on a $30,000 car just by adding 1 percentage point to the best rate that they can find for you. Now, over 60 months, that's going to be an $800 profit that the dealership just made for arranging her financing for you. And it gets even better at 2% when they can make over $1,600, and at 3% they're going to make over $2,400. Now, if you ask me, that's a lot of money for convenience. So do yourself a favor and check out what your local bank and credit unions are offering for new car interest rates, and I'll show you how you can use that information to your advantage. The first step to getting yourself pre-approved is finding out which bank or credit union is going to be able to offer you the best interest rate. Now, finding the best possible interest rate that you qualify for isn't that hard to do, but it will take some time and legwork on your part. The first thing you're going to want to do is download the lender rate sheet. This will make it a lot easier for you to make a list of the local banks and area credit unions. Now, once you've made this list, you'll then need to stop by each branch so that you can talk to the branch loan officer. The second step is to arm yourself with the FICO scores that you got from pulling your credit report. You're then going to ask the loan officer which credit bureau that the bank uses when they pull your credit report. Whichever one they use, ask them what rate you would qualify for based upon that bureau's FICO score, and write it down on the rate sheet. Now, once you find a lender that offers the most competitive interest rate, you'll then need to fill out a credit application and get yourself pre-approved with that lender. Now, if the best rate that you found was with a credit union, you'll then need to find out what it takes to become a member. And I would do this on my first visit when I'm finding out what kind of rate that they can offer me. Now, once you're pre-approved and you have the rate that you qualify for, you'll then be in a much better position to negotiate a matching rate or better rate with the dealership. And in most cases, the dealership will most likely be able to match or beat any bank or credit union rate because they get discounted commercial rates based upon the volume of business that the dealership brings the lender. And that's fine. You just need to know if the dealership is quoting you a fair interest rate or not once you get to that point in negotiating. And the only way you'll ever be certain of that is to get yourself pre-approved. Here's a copy of the new car information form, and this is the sheet that you'll be using to keep track of all your pre-shopping information. The first piece of information that you'll be collecting is your pre-approved interest rate from a local lender. Now, for our example, I'll be using a 4.9% interest rate that I got from a local lender. If you haven't already, you're going to want to print off a copy of the trade-in appraisal form, and this is the form that you'll be using to determine the value of your trade-in. Now, you're going to need the year, make, model, trim level, as well as the mileage, engine size, and all the features and options that the vehicle has. Now, once you have this information, you can now determine the wholesale and retail value of your trade-in. You've most likely already visited some of the online sites such as Kelley Blue Book, Edmunds.com, or NADA.com to see what your trade-in is worth. Now, these sites collect data from dealers and auction houses from across the country, and the one thing that you'll quickly notice is that they all have different estimates of what your trade-in is worth. So remember that these sites are only guides, and they should be treated as such. But out of the 3 guides, I would recommend using NADA.com. They are the largest publishers of guides in the world and the most commonly used by lenders and dealers. So when you have your trade-in appraisal completely filled out, you're going to want to go to NADA.com. Now, I've placed a logo on the dashboard, and you can click on it and it will take you directly to their site where I'll show you how to appraise your trade-in. Now, when you're ready to appraise your vehicle, you're going to want to go to NADA.com. And now you can find their logo on the dashboard. You're going to want to go ahead and click that. It's going to take you to their home page. And you're going to want to start here. Now, the vehicle that we're going to be trading in is a Ford Explorer Eddie Bauer Edition 4x4. It's a 2006 Eddie Bauer 4x4. It has 85,000 miles. We're going to want to put that in there. Then we're going to want to put all our options and equipment here, which I've already done. So here's an example of what you'll see once all the options are added. So as you can see, there's rough trade-in value, average trade-in value, and clean trade-in value. There's also retail value, and this is what the dealer will be asking for once he puts it on his lot. Now most trades are going to fall somewhere in between rough to average range. So what you're going to want to do is add these two prices together and then divide them by 2, and this will give you an average market value for your trade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the rough trade-in value of $11,125 and the average trade-in value of $12,325 together, which will give me $23,450. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide that by 2, and this is going to give me the bottom dollar in which I'm going to take for my trade-in, which is $11,725. Now I'm still going to fight for the average trade-in value of $12,325, but I need a bottom dollar figure in which I can take for my trade. So once you find out what your trade-in is worth, you're going to need to find out what your payoff on your vehicle is, if you have one. And if you do have one, you're going to need to call your lender and tell them that you're going to need a current and a 5-day payoff. And then you're going to want to do this again once you get close to trading in your vehicle, once you find a vehicle that you'd like to buy. So once you know what your trade-in is worth and the payoff amount, you're going to need to add these numbers to the new car information form. So let's add the trade-in value of $12,325 and the payoff amount of $14,650. This is going to give us a negative equity of $2,325. So let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to need as far as a down payment to eat up some of that negative equity. Now, at some point, the salesman's going to ask you if you plan to put any cash down as a down payment on the car that you wish to buy. A down payment is going to help absorb some of the negative equity in your trade-in if you have one, as well as the depreciation of the new vehicle, which most lenders don't like to be on the hook for. Now, most lenders and dealers typically like to see at least 20% down so that they can get your deal approved a lot easier with the lenders that they use. Now, if you don't have a down payment, there's ways around this, such as rebates and dealer cash. If you do have a down payment saved up, I would put down the very least amount of money possible as I could get away with. And if you do find yourself in a negative situation, try to find a car with a good sized rebate, put down as much cash as you can, and shop around for the best interest rate you can find, because the last thing you want to do is be paying on a car that you no longer own. Once you've determined how much money you'll be able to put down as a cash down payment, go ahead and add that to the new car information sheet. Now, for our example here, I'm going to be using $1,000 as my cash down payment.